My name is Joshua, and I am the Tribune. One of the most wonderful things about God's character and about working with God is He's the one person in the universe who knows every single mistake you're going to make in your life, including the mistakes that you make while you're trying to find His purpose in your life and you're trying to seek Him and follow the steps that He's ordered in order to get you to complete His powerful purpose. Now, the reason why this is important is because God is going to ask you to do things that you know you cannot do. Now, we make mistakes with things that we even know how to do. So it's guaranteed that we will have anxiety working with God if we don't understand that we are going to need Him fully to help us. And number two, we will absolutely make mistakes that He already knows about, that He already has planned for. So for the people who are having anxiety about working with God because they're afraid of making mistakes and maybe ruining His purpose and this and that and getting punished and having consequences and all that stuff, you need to let that go. Because what God looks at is the heart. He looks at your heart and says, okay, is this person genuinely trying to work with me, get to know my character? Does this person love me? And does this person have a passion for my purpose? This is what He's looking at. When He sees that you actually do have the heart for these things, then He will cover your honest mistakes. Because He is not going to allow something as frail as a human to stop His purpose. That's impossible. That's not going to happen. In fact, He actually loves working with frail humans because He's able to show His power through our frailty, and it makes Him look even more glorious to other people. And this is what witnesses to the unbelievers. Now, it's very important to explain how God is so perfect, because you might think, well, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake, and it cannot be covered. How can He cover it? Well, I'm going to give you an analogy so you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. Now, for the sakes of this conversation, I'm going to use an example that cannot happen because God's perfect. God absolutely does not make mistakes. So, in this example, know that when I talk about God making a mistake, it's just to make a point. Now, if there was a squirrel outside and this squirrel was living its life, hopping around, jumping on trees, eating nuts or whatever, and God, say, did not want this squirrel to die. It wasn't His time yet. And He just happened to look your way, and when He looks your way, the squirrel gets hit by a car. Now, this is impossible because God is everywhere. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. There is nothing that happens that He doesn't see or know about in advance and that He doesn't allow or order. But my point is that if that squirrel happened to die and God did happen to make a mistake, which is impossible, nobody would know about it. Nobody would know about it because He's operating on such a high level in managing the entire universe that that mistake would go unnoticed by you or anybody else. They would just look at it and say, that happened. They wouldn't know anything. Now again, this is an example to explain the level that God's working on. So when you're working with God, your human frailty is covered under that kind of umbrella of power. So what God does is He will allow you to make the mistake, maybe even to teach you something. Or maybe you're just going to make a mistake. And then He'll teach somebody else something about Him. But that mistake will not affect His purpose and the outcome of what He's trying to accomplish. And this is why you get to know His character in such a powerful way through the process, is partly because you will see yourself make mistakes and see Him cover you, and see yourself expose your human frailty in whatever project you're on or whatever mission you're on with Him, and you will see that people won't even notice it. People won't notice it because maybe He doesn't want people to notice it, because it will ruin His mission. This is why when you're working with God, you do not have to worry about ruining anything. It's actually arrogance. It's human arrogance to think that you can do anything that will actually ruin God's purpose with a good heart. It's arrogance because you are giving yourself too much credit. You are saying that you have more power than God's purpose. This is an unusual level of arrogance to even notice, because this a lot of the times looks like a good heart. If you were to talk to another person and they say, I'm just so concerned, I don't want to make a mistake, and I don't want to do this wrong, and I don't want to ruin this, and they're talking about God's purpose, maybe they would be applauded. Oh, you care. Oh, you're so, you care so much about God's purpose. No, it could be true, but the truth is God doesn't look at it like that. If you're having anxiety so much about making a mistake, then you're actually elevating yourself above his power in your own mind, which is impossible. So what I found when I was working with God is that when he's working with me and I'm actually doing something that is so powerful and something that I actually need his strength to do in the first place, I'm not too concerned about making mistakes, because he told me, listen, you need my power to do this anyway. If I wasn't here with you, you wouldn't even be able to just even put a scratch in it. You wouldn't even be able to make a dent in this project without my power. So what he wants from us is to rest in his wisdom and power and have a good time working with him and be at peace. God is always after peace. So the reason why it's very important that God wanted me to say this today is because he is going to be bringing things to you that will make you feel that you will absolutely fail at times. It's absolute. You will absolutely feel like this. So don't try to avoid it. You need to face it. And this is what this message is. It's so you can face this level of anxiety when it comes to you. Now, if you hear this message and say you just can't conquer this anxiety just from hearing this message, then what I know is that God will prove what I'm saying to you. He will actually come to the backside of this message after you watch this and you go and work with God. Hopefully you continue. He will come and prove it. He will let you make mistakes. And that's my next point. In order to prove this to you, if you can't get over this anxiety of making a mistake with God and you ruining your purpose and you think you have so much power even through your mistakes that God just can't cover that kind of stuff, those honest mistakes, then what he will do is he will actually make sure you make royal mistakes and then cover you. See, this is something that's so powerful about God. God is not somebody who doesn't want you to face things. He is after your peace. So anything that he needs you to have peace on, he will have you face it. So this is something you have to remember. This is the hard way to learn it, but it's actually the beautiful way to learn it too. Because then you get to really see his power. And that's what it is. He wants to show you his power in your life so that you can trust him. And this builds your relationship with him. So don't be discouraged if he actually allows you to make huge mistakes, even after listening to this message, because he will then prove himself to you and show you that even if you make a mistake, I will totally cover you. And that anxiety will just come down, down, down until it's pretty much non-existent, if not non-existent completely. So for me personally, I'll give you an example. When I'm talking to you in these videos, I am listening to the Holy Spirit. I am talking to you guys as his friend and telling you about him like he's standing right next to me or he's my family member or something. This is how close I am with God, and he has asked me to do this for him. Now, since I don't have a script, and since I don't have a podium, and since I don't have notes, I'm purely speaking off my relationship. And I'm purely speaking off of hearing what he's saying and trying to have me relay to you. So there are times in my messages when I might just have a human error and hear something wrong, and I relay it wrong to me. And I'm like, oh wow, that I know right away that wasn't what he said like he said it. Maybe it's the same thing, but it's not how he said it to me. But then later on, I will watch the video and see that it made total sense. And he totally accounted for that human frailty that showed up, that shone in that moment. And really, it's just between me and him. Now, I don't make mistakes to where it messes up the message and changes the entire point. But what I'm saying is that his words still go through how he wants them. Because I'm not powerful enough in this situation to mess up his words. And he knows my heart. He knows that my heart is to serve him, do exactly what he wants, say exactly what he wants, and be his mouthpiece and give that to you guys. So for that heart posture, I am covered. And this is what you guys need to know. You need to rest in this. And I'm saying this so you guys can actually look for it, so that when you're working with God, you can actually see him cover you like this. Pay attention to it as soon as possible, so that the anxiety can go away and you can enjoy the process a lot more than I did in a shorter amount of time. Because this process, this principle took me a long time through my process to learn. This is another thing that helps you do new things with God that you really don't have any experience doing. This principle gives you confidence. And what it is you have confidence in his power, not you, his power. And when you're operating in his power and his confidence, and you're so confident in God operating in your life, then there's nothing that you cannot do when he asks it. This is a valuable principle. So don't be afraid to even make mistakes. Another thing about God is that he will actually allow other people to make mistakes in regards to his thing that he's doing with you, and allow them to look like they ruined it, but really they advanced it. I have had people touch my stuff that I'm working with God and totally ruin it. It looks like it's ruined. And then God showed me, oh no, I meant for that to happen. Because that actually guided you and made you go over here. And that's where I really wanted you. And if that mistake wouldn't have happened, then you would have never found this place that I wanted you to be. This is so powerful. So even when things go wrong in situations and circumstances, you cannot even blame the circumstance. So it starts with you. You need to get this principle down for yourself, between you and God. And also you need to look around at your circumstances and not say, oh, well, that's wrong. That's not perfect. That doesn't work. Wow, this happened today. Or, oh my gosh, this happened. And it's affecting what God's asking me to do. No, it's working for your benefit. If a problem comes or some kind of mistake happens, even that's outside of your control, and you're working on God's purpose and you're moving forward, then you need to know it's going to work in your benefit. Even satanic attacks will work in your benefit. That's about perspective. There are so many facets to this principle. But everything comes down to knowing that God absolutely is perfect, and nothing can stop his mission in your life. Not your human frailty, not the people around you and their mistakes that they're making, and not any situation. Now, there is a disclaimer. If you take what I'm saying and then you think you can just do whatever you want and you're working with God, let's say God comes and speaks to you on something, you can just go do whatever you want, be reckless. No, you're going to fall so hard on your face that you will realize that you don't want to do that again. Or he'll reassign you for being reckless or disobedient. I'm not talking about being sinful, being evil, being reckless, being disobedient. I'm talking about people who have a good heart towards God and a pure heart and are not perfect, but want to do his will at all costs. And they don't want to mess up so bad that they are getting anxiety over it. Those people he will cover through anything. And it's his pleasure to do so. So I hope this encourages people to even want to work with God too. Because there's people probably who are watching who don't even know that they wanted to work with God. But they're hearing this and saying, wow, that sounds great. It does sound great, and it is great. Because what happens is when you're moving forward in this principle with God, and you reach this level of working with God and you realize that he covers your human mistakes and he loves doing it, then you actually get to study everything and not have worries about what happens. Whether you make a mistake or someone else makes an honest mistake, or the situations start crumbling around you, you start looking at those and saying, okay, God, what do you want to do with this? What are you trying to teach me? How are you going to advance this while it didn't work out like I thought? And then you are filled up with his goodness and his grace, his mercy, and you get to know his character. And really, guys, knowing his character is the goal in all of this. Because there is no greater gift than him. This is so essential to understand. Even his projects that are so wonderful are not even close to as good as knowing him personally. And this is what clothing royalty is about. What it's about is explaining God's character through all the things that you will face in purpose. Attacks, pleasure, building, preparation, implementation, all these different things show God's character. And this is what God wants. He wants for you to get to know him as a friend and as a father, because he's the best. So today he was very excited to speak this to you guys, because there are people who are going to need this in the future and who need it right now. Satan will always come and try to make you see something that's wrong or something that you're afraid of, and oh no, you shouldn't do it because you're gonna mess it up. And if you mess it up, then what? No. I'm here to fight against that today. God's message to you is that you need to have the heart that he can do this and operate in this way. You need to have that heart inside of you. And how you start getting that heart is you start seeking his face. You seek his character. You seek his purpose. And from there, he will prove himself to you. And this is what ultimately I'm here to encourage you to do. To seek his face. You will not be disappointed in this. Hail Jehovah.